The Domine called it Preservation Sector 9. The humans called it the Cradle, a cruel joke for a mining colony carved into a hollow asteroid orbiting Jupiter's corpse moon. Kayla Voss called it home, 16 years old, parentless, bone-thin from rations and radiation pulses. Her daily life was dust, labor, and silence. She worked the night shift in Digwell 14, hauling conduits and fusing ore beams under the eyes of the overseers, 10-foot insectoid giants with obsidian plating and voice tones like razors scraping. Steel. They never spoke to her. They didn't need to. The collars did that. Each human wore one, an adaptive neural restraint wired into the base of the skull. Pain, sleep cycles, even thoughts, regulated by the Domine through the psychic lattice. Kayla had learned not to dream. Dreaming triggered pulses. Pulses meant pain, but the cracks were starting to show. Literally. Digwell 14 was breaking down. On the 5th day of her 6th week underground, Kyla followed a collapsed tunnel deeper than protocol allowed. Her partner, a mute boy named Sari, warned her with a look, but she went anyway. The tremors came from something buried, and Kayla had always been too curious for her own good. She found it wedged in a rock fissure, half crushed beneath twisted metal and ancient concrete, a data core, round, smooth, marked, in a language she didn't recognize, but old, human, not Domine. It pulsed once when she touched it, then again, like a heartbeat. She pulled it free and smuggled it back to her bunk, hiding it beneath a panel of loose floor plates. She waited until cycle sleep, when the overseers dimmed the lights and fed a low-frequency pacifier into the neural lattice. Then she activated it. A flicker, a whisper, a blinking light. Then a voice, hoarse, crackling, ancient. Fragment online. Sigma protocol, partially restored. Human identifier not found. Error, reinitializing core. Kayla froze. It was real. A real AI, the kind the Domine exterminated centuries ago. The kind said to have nearly defeated them before Earth fell. This one was damaged, broken in pieces, flickering between memory and function. But its voice sharpened with each breath. User, young. Unregistered. Designation requested. Kayla, she whispered. My name is Kayla Voss. The AI paused. Voss. Lineage link detected. Ancestor. General Caden Voss. Battle of Martian orbit. Resistance high command. Confirm. Kayla's heart stopped. Her mouth moved before she could think. Confirm. The floor seemed to drop beneath her. Welcome, Kayla Voss. You are the last recorded carrier of lucid potential within 500 light years. I am Sigma. Your enemy has ruled long enough. Kayla stared at the small, glowing core. Lucid potential? The Domine fear it more than any weapon. They burned your bloodline for it. But they missed you. A sharp knock cracked the silence. Kayla froze. Her door slid open. Sari stood there, wide-eyed. Behind him, one of the overseers loomed, its compound eyes glowing with suspicion. It had sensed something. The AI flickered, retreating into dim light. They'll kill you for knowing me. Or worse. Decide now, Kayla Voss. Obey or resist. She looked between the AI, the boy, and the alien watching her like prey, her fists clenched. Then I guess I resist. The evacuation shaft wasn't meant for humans. Kayla's shoulders scraped raw against the steel as she crawled, one arm clutching the data core, the other pulling her forward through a vent duct barely wider than her body. Behind her, a klaxon howled, an emergency override she'd never heard before. Warning. Overseer Class K designated Karakth in pursuit. Sigma's voice rasped in her ear. Do not stop. She didn't plan to. Sari had bought her 30 seconds. She saw it in his eyes as he blocked the hallway. No words, no goodbyes, just the hard shove that sent her running. Then the scream. Metal tearing. Bones snapping. Kayla would cry later. If she lived. The shaft led into a waste chute. Beyond it, the external maintenance dock. She kicked through the lower grating and dropped into the garbage tank, scrambled out, and sprinted across the dim catwalk toward an old atmospheric skimmer. Sigma. She gasped, fumbling the control panel. Can this piece of junk fly? If you override the inhibitor lock. Manual interface required. She slammed her hand against the ancient touchscreen. Nothing. The ship's neural relay was dead, probably fried a decade ago. She grabbed a fusion rod from the nearby tool rack and jammed it through the panel. The screen blinked. Power surged. The skimmer howled to life. Behind her, the blast doors burst open. Karakth emerged, all jagged limbs and glowing plasma teeth. It screeched, a psychic wave slamming into her skull like an ice pick. Kayla screamed, blood from her nose. "Resist!" Sigma shouted. "Push back!" Something inside her snapped. The pain reversed. Her mind flared, a wave of hot static crackling in every nerve. The overseer recoiled mid-lunge, shrieking in confusion. Kayla leapt into the pilot's seat, slammed the thrusters, and launched. The skimmer blasted through the mag seal, arcing out into the void around the asteroid colony. Kayla gritted her teeth, barely managing to hold the controls steady as the blackness of space swallowed her. 6 hours later, drifting beyond the mining sector's patrol zone, Kayla finally let herself breathe. She was alive, alone and hunted. They will not stop, Sigma said. You are the last confirmed lucid. Your neural signature has been uploaded to the Domine lattice. You are marked. Great, she muttered, fingers trembling. Marked for what? Termination? Worse. Domine research indicates lucids are not merely dangerous. They are contagious. Kayla blinked. Contagious. Lucid potential. May lie dormant in millions. You could wake them. You are a spark. A plague of rebellion waiting to spread. She stared out at the stars. They're scared of me. They always were. Sigma uploaded a series of coordinates to the nav console. A dead zone. Unmapped space in the Oort cloud. There's a relay satellite there, the AI explained. Pre-war. If we reach it, I can access deep archives. Learn what's left of Earth's defenses. Kayla nodded, but doubt gnawed at her. This is insane, she whispered. I'm a miner with no training, no army, and a glorified flashlight AI. Incorrect, Sigma said coldly. You are the last unshackled node of a shattered species, and if you fall, the embers die with you. Kayla closed her eyes. She thought of Ceri's scream, the overseer's voice in her head, the thousands of slaves on the colony who would never know a moment of freedom. Her eyes opened, steel hard, set course for the relay. The relay station was little more than a drifting skeleton, its solar wings shattered, its hull pocked by micrometeorites and Domine pulse fire. But the signal was intact, encrypted, faint, and old. Sigma decrypted it in minutes. The coordinates pointed toward Gaia's reach, a name whispered in half-lost resistance fables, the last redoubt of free humans. Kayla set course. 2 days later, she drifted into the asteroid cluster known as the Veil. It was beautiful and deadly, glittering rock spirals orbiting a black dwarf, cloaking what lay beneath. Deep inside, tethered to a cratered moon, floated a salvaged battleship stitched together from scrap and memory. It bore the Resistance sigil, a broken chain inside a burning star. Kayla docked. No welcome, no guns, no voices, only silence. Inside the ship, time had rusted everything, flickering lights, echoing corridors, and faces that looked more like ghosts than freedom fighters. Men and women in mismatched armor eyed her with suspicion. An older man with a scar running down his face stepped forward. He carried no weapon, but his posture said he didn't need one. Ryan Hark, former field commander, last recorded leader of the Resistance. You're just a kid, he said. And you're just a man who gave up, Kayla shot back. A flicker of emotion, pride, crossed his face. We've had lucids before, he said. They either died screaming or went mad. The Dominae don't lose, girl. They erase, like they erased Earth. They missed me, she said, and now I'm here. Hark didn't speak. He led her to the strategy room, dim, dusty, haunted by old failures. On the central display flickered star charts, Dominae patrol routes, ancient human fleet logs no longer relevant. This used to be a war room, he said. Now it's a tomb. There's nothing left. Our best got vaporized at the rings of Saturn. Our signal repeaters are jammed, and the Dominae track every ship that even breathes wrong near the inner planets. Kayla dropped Sigma's core on the table. It pulsed once. Correction. You have me. And now her. A dozen heads turned. Sigma's. Voice boomed from the overhead system, reverberating like thunder in a cathedral. Eyes widened. Hark's jaw clenched. You brought a functioning AI into my command, he growled. I brought hope, Kayla snapped. You're sitting here waiting to die. I came to fight. One of the younger fighters, barely older than... Kayla stepped forward. Her name was Lita. She stared at Kayla, then at Sigma. You're really a lucid? Kayla nodded. Prove it. Kayla exhaled. She stepped back and reached deep into the strange place within her where Sigma's training now guided her. Her fingers sparked. The air shimmered. A floating pattern of light and sound formed above. Her hand, complex, alien, and terrifyingly beautiful. It pulsed with raw energy, the imprint of a mind linked to something deeper than flesh. Lita stumbled back. Others gasped. Hark's eyes narrowed. You're unstable, he said. You'll get us all killed. I'd rather die trying than rot in this grave you've built, Kayla replied. But if that's all this place is, then I'll do it alone. She turned to leave. Wait, Sigma said aloud. Protocol Omega Red. Leadership challenge recognized. What are you doing? Kayla hissed. You must lead, Kayla Voss, or no one will follow. Hark raised an eyebrow. You want my command, kid? Fine. Let's see if you can bleed for it. He reached to the wall, pulled free 2 shock blades. 1 cut draws blood. 3 cuts, I decide if you live. 5. You earn the seat. Kayla took the blade. She didn't hesitate. Kayla's blade met Hark's in a flash of sparks. He didn't go easy on her. The old commander moved like a viper, precise, fast, cruel. His shock blade hissed with every strike, each blow aimed to test. Her resolve more than her reflexes. She bled after the first slash. A second cut burned across her forearm. She tasted copper in her mouth and knew he wasn't just testing her. He expected her to fail. But Kayla didn't fall back. She didn't plead. She stepped into his next strike and shoved her blade against his shoulder just deep enough to spark a flare of pain. 3, she grunted. Hark's eyes changed. No more contempt. Just calculation. He lunged again. Kayla ducked under, slashed low, then twisted, leapt up, and brought her blade across his chest. A clean 4th. The final blow came not with brute force, but clarity. She caught his eyes, saw the faintest twitch in his leading arm. An old injury, maybe, or a hesitation, and struck before he moved. The 5th cut drew blood along his collarbone. Hark staggered, and for a moment, silence gripped the chamber. Then he dropped his blade. You lead now, he said, breathless. Kayla spent the next 2 days reorganizing chaos. She met what was left of the engineering corps, 2 brothers who kept the old battlecruiser running with duct tape and ancient schematics. The pilots were half mad from isolation. The intel team barely trusted their own data, terrified of Dominae sleeper probes. But they listened. Sigma, now interfacing with the ship's systems, offered what the Resistance hadn't had in years: coordination, speed, and a tactical edge. The next objective was clear. Earth, Kayla said, addressing the war room. We return. Shock rippled through the room. Earth's a crater, someone muttered. A scorched husk. A memory. But Sigma overlaid new data. Orbital decay patterns, satellite pings, and buried signals. A vault remains beneath the ruins of the North American continent, hidden in the Appalachian Fold. The Iron Core Archives. Kayla leaned over the table. It was the backup brain of the old human defense grid. Earth's secrets are still down there. If we want to stand a chance, if we want to light a fire big enough to burn the Domine out of the stars, we need what's inside. Hark, now quieter and more thoughtful, nodded. Then we go. The journey was brutal. Earth's orbital space was still patrolled by automated Domine sentries, satellites with beam lances and thought scourers. They had to slingshot around Venus and use a decoy drone to punch through the blockade. Kayla piloted the dropskiff herself. Lita sat beside, her weapons ready. Hark brought a squad of 6, armed with what few ancient railguns they'd refurbished. The Earth they landed on was unrecognizable. Skies were dull gray, permanently scarred by orbital bombardment. Oceans had receded. The soil tasted like rust and ash, but beneath it all, buried under centuries of silence, was the Iron Core. They descended into the ruins of what had once been Washington, D.C., then further beneath, past collapsed bunkers, past fractured monuments to a forgotten past. Sigma guided them down a tunnel sealed with an alloy no Domine sensor could read. They found it, a steel vault marked with the eagle sigil of the United Earth Defense Council. Kayla stepped forward. The door responded to her touch, a lucid's touch. It opened with a slow hiss of decompressed air and light. Inside, cryo-stabilized. Servers hummed to life. Hardlight projectors blinked on. Holograms bloomed in the air, displaying maps, battle simulations, weapons data, and something else. A message, old but clear. A man with Kayla's eyes, his voice steady, resolute. If you're hearing this, then the fire hasn't gone out. We failed to stop the Domine, but we left a spark in you. Finish what we couldn't. Kayla dropped to her knees, overwhelmed. Sigma's voice was quiet, almost reverent. The chain has been broken, the forge rekindled. Kayla's blade met Hark's in a flash of sparks. He didn't go easy on her. The old commander moved like a viper, precise, fast, cruel. His shock blade hissed with every strike, each blow aimed to test her resolve more than her reflexes. She bled after the first slash. A second cut burned across her forearm. She tasted copper in her mouth and knew he wasn't just testing her. He expected her to fail, but Kayla didn't fall back. She didn't plead. She stepped into his next strike and shoved her blade against his shoulder, just deep enough to spark a flare of pain. 3, she grunted. Hark's eyes changed. No, more contempt. Just calculation. He lunged again. Kayla ducked under, slashed low, then twisted, leapt up, and brought her blade across his chest. A clean 4th. The final blow came not with brute force, but clarity. She caught his eyes, saw the faintest twitch in his leading arm, an old injury maybe, or a hesitation, and struck before he moved. The 5th cut drew blood along his collarbone. Hark staggered, and for a moment silence gripped the chamber. Then he dropped his blade. "You lead now," he said, breathless. Kayla spent the next 2 days reorganizing chaos. She met what was left of the engineering corps, 2 brothers who kept the old battlecruiser running with duct tape and ancient schematics. The pilots were half mad from isolation. The intel team barely trusted their own data, terrified of Domine sleeper probes. But they listened. Sigma, now interfacing with the ship's systems, offered what the Resistance hadn't had in years: coordination, speed, and a tactical edge. The next objective was clear. "Earth," Kayla said, addressing the war room. We return! Shock rippled through the room. Earth's a crater, someone muttered. A scorched husk. A memory. But Sigma overlaid new data. Orbital decay patterns, satellite pings, and buried signals. A vault remains beneath the ruins of the North American continent. Hidden in the Appalachian fold. The Iron Core archives. Kayla leaned over the table. It was the backup brain of the old human defense grid. Earth's secrets are still down there. If we want to stand a chance, if we want to light a fire big enough to burn the Domine out of the stars, we need what's inside. Hark, now quieter and more thoughtful, nodded. Then we go. The journey was brutal. Earth's orbital space was still patrolled by automated Domine sentries, satellites with beam lances and thought scourers. They had to slingshot around Venus and use a decoy drone to punch through the blockade. Kayla piloted the drop skiff herself. Lita sat beside. Her weapons ready. Hark brought a squad of 6, armed with what few ancient railguns they'd refurbished. The Earth they landed on was unrecognizable. Skies were dull gray, permanently scarred by orbital bombardment. Oceans had receded. The soil tasted like rust and ash. But beneath it all, buried under centuries of silence, was the Iron Core. They descended into the ruins of what had once been Washington, D.C., then further beneath, past collapsed bunkers, past fractured monuments to a forgotten past. Sigma guided them. Down a tunnel sealed with an alloy no Domine sensor could read. They found it. A steel vault marked with the eagle sigil of the United Earth Defense Council. Kyla stepped forward. The door responded to her touch, a Lucid's touch. It opened with a slow hiss of decompressed air and light. Inside, cryo stabilized. Servers hummed to life. Hard-light projectors blinked on. Holograms bloomed in the air, displaying maps, battle simulations, weapons data, and something else. A message, old but clear. A man with Kayla's eyes, his voice steady, resolute. If you're hearing this, then the fire hasn't gone out. We failed to stop the Domine, but we left a spark in you. Finish what we couldn't. Kayla dropped to her knees, overwhelmed. Sigma's voice was quiet, almost reverent. The chain has been broken, the forge rekindled. The psychic pulse that shattered the Seeker didn't stop at Earth. It radiated outward, like a sunburst woven through subspace, streaking across the stars faster than any signal had moved in decades. It touched every human colony still bound under Domine control, and something began to wake. On the mining moons of Rigel 4, a child dropped her pickaxe as her eyes began to glow. In the slave factories of Titan's sister stations, workers collapsed, to their knees, convulsing, then rising with clarity in their gaze, strength in their veins. Lucids. Dormant. Hidden. Triggered by Kayla's flare, not one, not dozens, hundreds. Across the network, Sigma's voice spoke like a prophet. The signal has seeded new minds. The chain is cracking. In the command center of Gaia's Reach, resistance fighters watched, with stunned awe as colony after colony pinged back with lucid signatures and encrypted replies. A map of the galaxy bloomed with light. "What do we do?" Lita whispered, staring at the glowing chart. Kayla stood at the center of it all, her voice calm, but with a fire behind it no one had heard before. "We organize," she said. "We connect. We teach them to fight." The next 2 weeks were a blur. Kayla returned to Gaia's Reach a legend, but she didn't bask in the title. She was too busy training. With Sigma's guidance, she constructed psychic reinforcement chambers and neural simulators to help new Lucids stabilize. Each one had different strengths. Some could disrupt electronics, others could manipulate physical fields or override Domine tech with sheer force of will. But the Domine weren't idle. They had felt the rupture in their network. They no longer sent seekers. Now came the harvest ships, planet-sized fortresses with gravity wells and emotion leeching. Fields, built to cleanse entire systems. The first one appeared near the Iota Draconis system. It began incinerating colonies without warning. Kayla and her growing resistance couldn't reach them in time. 17 million lives. Gone in less than an hour. Hark stared at the casualty reports in silence. "We need to hit back," Lita growled. "Hard," Kayla nodded. "But not just with ships and guns. We hit them where they live, the network. The Domine relied on the same lattice that made the lucid connection possible. That was their weakness. Using the Iron Core data, Sigma had uncovered buried code, protocols the Domine had stolen but never fully understood. If we inject a feedback virus through their own communication relays, Kayla said, we can overload. They're command clusters. It won't destroy them, but it'll blind them. Hark smiled grimly. A temporary lobotomy. Exactly. But we'll need to deliver it into the heart of their control array, Lita pointed out. And that means crossing into the throat. Everyone froze. The throat was a Domine bastion, an asteroid labyrinth riddled with black hole generators and quantum flares. No human ship had returned from there, until now. We don't need to send a fleet, Kayla said. She raised her hand. We send me. The plan was madness. One lucid, one AI. One ship wrapped in an iron core field disruptor, designed to be invisible for 17 minutes, the time it would take to reach the relay core and deliver Sigma's payload. Sigma interfaced with the ship directly. The vessel, Torchwind, was stripped down, fast, and fragile. It had no weapons, no backup. Kayla sat in the pilot's chair. Across the comms, the Resistance watched in tense silence. Lita placed a hand on the console. You come back, got it? Kayla smiled. Burn the stars if I don't. The Torchwind entered the throat. Black flares warped space around her. Domin sentries blinked past her unnoticed, their senses scrambled by the disruptor field. She reached the core. A spire of black crystal wrapped in silver energy, pulsing with the breath of 1 billion enslaved systems. She closed her eyes, and with Sigma's guidance, opened her mind. Together, they sent the virus into the lattice. A psychic detonation, silent and beautiful, rippled outward. Domin nodes blinked out, command ships turned in confusion, and across the galaxy, for the first time in generations, the Domine faltered. The moment the virus detonated in the Domine lattice, the galaxy shuddered. Every ship, every node, every thought-linked slave station flickered like a dying star. Silence blanketed the void, not peace, but disarray. And in that silence, humanity roared. Kayla's psychic shockwave opened more than just minds. It opened doors. Gaia's reach erupted into action. Rebel fleets launched from long-hidden silos. Dormant railguns came alive on moons thought long abandoned. Entire asteroid colonies, once quiet and cowed, hoisted banners bearing the old human sigil, a burning sun clenched in a defiant fist. The Resistance moved in waves. On Serion 5, Lucids hijacked a Domine terraformer and used it to vaporize a fleet of assault drones. On the outer edges of Helix Prime, an orphaned human AI awoke and declared itself a free sovereign entity, broadcasting Kayla's message across over 100 enslaved worlds. Hope wasn't just spreading, it was fighting back. But Kayla didn't celebrate. She lay in the medbay of Gaia's Reach, body still recovering from the psychic strain of the throat mission. Her hair had gone nearly silver. Her eyes now flickered with fractal light when she blinked. Doctors whispered it was a miracle she'd survived. Sigma monitored her vitals with obsessive care. Your mind was not made to channel that much energy. You risk dissolution every time. You breach the lattice. Kayla coughed a laugh. I'll try not to dissolve. But even as her body healed, her mind churned. There were voices now, whispers riding the edge of her awareness. Not Domine. Human, lucids, new ones, thousands. Maybe more. They were linking to her, voluntarily, as if she were a beacon, a node of gravity in the network. Some were scared. Some were angry. Some were different. One voice stood out among them all, clear, cold, calculated. Kayla, you opened the gate. But you're not the only one who can pass through. Sigma noticed the anomaly first. A cluster of lucids, unknown to their network, moving together, tightly synced. Their psychic signatures weren't erratic or new. They were ancient. Where did they come from? Kayla asked. Uncertain. Their minds were not seeded by your signal. They've been active and hidden for decades. Hark and Lita stood, behind her watching the readings. They're human? Lita asked. Yes, but altered. The cluster called itself the Forgebound. They made contact not through voice, but vision. Kayla was pulled into a dreamlike trance where stars bled and metal grew like vines. And at the center stood a man made of half flesh, half fire. We are. What the Domine made and failed to break. Lucids before lucids, children of war left to rot in the dark. Now we return. He showed her visions, hidden weapons, moonships built from Domine tech, planets swallowed whole to keep secrets. And then he said something that chilled her. You've reawakened the war, but you lack the fury to win it. Join us, or fall, like the others. Kayla broke the connection, gasping. They're planning something, she told Sigma. They don't want freedom, they want dominion. They believe only a brutal humanity can survive what's coming. We can't let them take over. But Sigma hesitated. There's more. One of the Forgebound carries a genetic echo identical to yours. Kayla froze. What? He may be your brother. Outside, the Resistance was planning their largest offensive yet, a direct assault on the Domine relay moon near Sirius, the final link in their neural command net. But Kayla now had a choice: lead the attack, or find the Forgebound and confront the bloodline she never knew she had. Lita looked at her, serious. Whatever happens next, it won't be clean. Kayla stood, her strength returning. No, but it'll be ours. She turned to Sigma. Plot both courses. The Torchwind 2 drifted through the debris of a shattered Domine outpost, cloaked in a modified iron core stealth field. Inside, Kayla stood alone at the viewing pane, watching the stars tremble. Behind her, Sigma's voice hummed quietly. Coordinates locked. Forgebound Enclave is located within the dead shell of Solaris Vault, an abandoned human-Domin hybrid station. Kayla closed her eyes. It wasn't just strategy now, it was blood. The Forgebound leader, Ishin, was her brother, left behind. Twisted by war and silence, and now he led an army of ancient lucids hardened by generations of loss. They didn't believe in freedom. They believed in domination, turning the tools of the enemy against everyone, including humans. Kayla clenched her fists. If they couldn't be turned, they'd have to be stopped. Meanwhile, far from Solaris Vault, the Resistance fleet gathered above the burning sky of Sirius B-30 ships, hundreds of lucids, thousands of free humans. Lita stood on the command bridge, armor scorched from skirmishes, eyes fierce. This is it, she called to her crew. The last Domine command relay. We take it down, and they lose everything. As the fleet surged toward the enemy outpost, Hark led a strike team to the surface. The Domine didn't retreat. They adapted. New war forms emerged, twisting, morphing machines linked directly into the psychic lattice. They moved with terrifying speed, reacting to thought, not motion, but the lucids were ready. Together they fought not just with weapons, but with will. Each blast, each strike, synchronized through the lucid network Kayla had reawakened. In Solaris Vault, Kayla stepped into the dark, Ishin awaited her in a chamber of twisted steel and crystal. He looked nothing like her, and yet everything like her. The same eyes, the same pain behind them. "Hello, little sister," he said. Kayla didn't raise. "Her weapon." "I came to talk." Ishin tilted his head. "And if I say you're too late?" "Then I try anyway." He moved like a shadow, circling her. "We survived what others didn't. But the price was truth. The Dominate taught me what humans refuse to learn. Weakness breeds failure." "I don't believe that." "No," he said. "You feel it. That's your flaw. You fight for the chance to be free. I fight to make us stronger." Kayla stepped closer. "You want to replace chains with new ones. Chains made of light," he snapped. "Forged from lucid strength. The galaxy needs order, not idealism." She felt it then, a psychic storm swelling inside him. The other forge-bound lucids surrounding them, feeding his power. A ritual, a fusion, something massive. "You're trying to overwrite the lattice." He smiled coldly. "No more fragmentation. One mind, one purpose. All lucids unified under me." Kayla's blood ran cold. "You'll enslave them all." "Not enslave, save." Back at Sirius B, the Resistance breached the final Domine relay chamber. Lita and Hark planted the spike, a lucid-driven amplifier designed to broadcast Kayla's signal across every known star system. But it wouldn't activate. Sigma appeared, in hologram form beside them. "Kayla's presence is required. Without her, the network cannot align." "We're out of time," Hark said. "I'll stall them," Lita growled, drawing her blade. "She'll come through. She always does." Kayla stood at the brink. Ishin extended a hand. "Join me, be part of the solution. Together, we can be the gods humanity needs." She looked at him and stepped back. "No." Her voice echoed through the chamber. She raised her hands and unleashed everything, all the pain, all the hope, all the fury of a girl who had crawled through the ashes of a dying earth and found strength in scars. Light poured from her like a storm. The forge-bound recoiled. Ishin's link faltered. Kayla seized the lattice and broadcast. The Resistance fleet felt it first, a surge through their minds like a tidal wave of clarity. Lucids across the galaxy lit up in synchrony. The signal tore. Through the Domine infrastructure like wildfire, their control nodes shattered. War forms collapsed mid-battle. And at the heart of the storm, Kayla stood over a broken console, breath shallow, skin glowing. Ishin knelt, beaten, not dead, but changed. "You could have killed me," he whispered. "You're my brother," Kayla replied. "I'd rather show you the stars." Weeks later, the Domine lattice is gone. Their ships drift as silent relics. Humanity, for the first time in generations, stands unchained. Kayla walks the corridors of Gaia's reach, nodding to former slaves now rebuilding. Lita limps beside her, smirking. "So, what now, savior of the stars?" Kayla smiles. "Now we stop surviving," she gazes up, "and start living." End of story.